Zedd, True Colors. Go buy it now. That would basically summarize the review I'm about to give of the second album from German DJ and producer Zedd. And I was actually expecting less from this record. From the previews and from what I initially thought of this, I didn't think the record was going to be all that great, but ended up being a ton better than I was expecting. I can't wait to get into my thoughts on this because this album is absolutely fantastic and you should go out and get it if you haven't yet. I got the Target exclusive, which comes with a couple bonus remixes, which are also very good, from Fox Stevenson and Mark Benjamin. I'm absolutely excited about this record and the future Zedd has in store after delivering this piece of art, which was centered around a little more of a unique, diverse sound than his first album, Clarity, had. And I definitely really love this album, and I'm going to get into it starting right now. Addicted to a Memory, the song actually starts off a little bit how his first record went, which I feel like was kind of a tie run. I think he might have done this on purpose. Addicted to a Memory sounds a tiny bit, at least in the beginning, I think, like Hourglass, which was the intro track on Clarity. And but this time kind of leads into a harder electro drop, and then actually pulls in 3 unique drops with this one, and I was absolutely in love with this track from the start. First time I heard it, in full anyway. First drop, it's kind of just a little hard electro kick, then we get into more of a diverse melody, and then we get into a hard progressive house drop, and man, it's just so worth it when you get into the diversity of this track. This is a track, I Want You to Know, with Selena Gomez. I wasn't expecting to like this one either, but electro, and I'm so happy that this is getting played on the radio, because how many times do we get electro house on the radio? And I'm just so proud of Zedd for putting out something like this, and it's definitely a good and danceable track. The only track I didn't like on this album was track 3, Beautiful Now, and it just sounded a little too mainstream for me. The lyrics weren't really appealing either, but like I said, this is the only track that really bugs me on the record, and I feel like could have fit in less. And even though it's the biggest single right now, and it's actually, I think it's selling better than I Want You to Know, and it's probably going to get played on the radio, just really didn't like this at all. And at least the shout vocals during the chorus of the track sound a little too much like Clarity was, and I think Zedd should have gone for something a little more interesting with this track if he wanted to make this track work. Other than that, I'm not too crazy about it, but this is the only pick I have to have with the record. We get into Transmission, which is a little bit slower and harder with Logic and X Ambassadors. Logic's verse is awesome on this. Logic is one of those rappers that you definitely have to keep an eye out for, because he's got a very nice flow, and he's just a very good up-and-coming rapper, and you should definitely check out his stuff. Like I said, this one's a little bit harder, maybe has a little more of a punk rock vibe, which I definitely love the diversity on this record, so much more than where Clarity was going, which featured more pop artists, and this one had a lot more diversity. Done with Love, my favorite track by far, just super funky, and nice and melodic, just how I like it. The vocals are also great on this one, uncredited vocals, if I might add. This track leads perfectly into the title track, True Colors, which I was actually expecting something completely different on this one. No EDM influence. It starts out with a little bit of a piano and gets into this kind of indie rock vibe, and kind of more of a slower style, but I really like the way this beautifully transitions from Done with Love into this track, and this is one of the tracks that really makes you want to listen to the record as a whole and not just for the singles, and that's what I think I love about this record most, is you can play it straight through with no interruptions, and it's just absolutely fantastic. This is the track Papercut, and this one's super progressive, builds up very well, and ends up being one of the probably fan favorites off the record. This one's probably going to be big in the EDM world, bringing back that progressive house style that we've seen a few years ago with Deadmau5 and Cascade, bringing back that style that Zedd doesn't usually focus around, but he pulls it off very well. And this leads perfectly, I love the flows on this album and the transitions. This leads perfectly in his collab with Botneck, Bumblebee, and although I wasn't the biggest Botneck fan, I've actually started liking their stuff now, and this definitely shows off both their styles very well, at least with the lead saw, with Zedd, and the drop more centered around a botneck sound. I love that Zedd likes to give these slightly less popular producers a bit of a chance by putting them on his record. His last one had Lucky Date, and then I found out about Lucky Date from Fall Into the Sky, which is absolutely a great track. I just feel like this one had a little bit more of an ability to capture attention and keep more of a unique element than the last record did. I think there were a couple tracks on that, Stash and Kodak, if I remember right, that kind of just flowed too well together, and I don't really like albums that have sister tracks like that and just flow a little bit too well and kind of sound like they're trying to be the same track but slightly variated. I just feel like this album was a little more interesting than that, because instead of getting a just pop EDM album, we got more than that, and we got slow, hard electro, we got regular electro, we've got progressive house, we've got big room, that botneck style, and this could definitely be a huge big room banger that could be a hit on the main stage. I can't wait for the extended mix to come out so I can snatch that. Daisy, not extremely interesting of a track, but definitely not one of my least favorites. I've heard some criticisms on this track, but it's a short track, and I think it's meant to lead into the final track, Illusion, and I've heard some hate on this track too, but honestly, it's very interesting and very compelling as a track. More of a progressive sound and definitely interesting, and I don't really see the need to criticize this, because even though I was slightly a little more bored with this track than a lot of the other tracks, I think that's kind of its purpose, just kind of let down at the very end of the record. Not going to bother talking about the bonus remixes, although Fox Stevenson's remix, I have to say, is absolutely fantastic, and you should go support Fox Stevenson. Zedd's True Colors, I've been deciding for a bit. Ever since I got the record, I've been deciding if I want to give this record a 9 or a 9.5. And I think the best possible rating that I could give this is a 9.5. I think it's high, definitely above all the other 9.0s I've given, and I've got a couple other 9.0s coming that are going to make my top 10 albums of the year. But this album definitely deserves a 9.5. I like it just as much, if not more, than Kendrick Lamar's record. Although that record was fantastic, this one's on another level entirely. And when people said, when this record first dropped and it leaked, which is about the same time that I listened to it, people were criticizing it and saying that it was kind of a letdown and that Madian's album was actually better. And I actually thought this album was a lot better than Madian's. It's a little bit more unique and manages to keep my attention even better than that one does. Even though it's got a little bit more of a mainstream sound, Zedd pulls it off extremely well, and I would love to hear more of this style from Zedd. I think he's progressing towards something big. Anyway, I'm going to give this a 9.5, like I already said. Zedd, True Colors, go out and buy it. No regrets. This album is great. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review. See you later.